Virtual reality has become quite the rage these days. From video games to metaverses, it's pretty much everywhere now. But did you know that it has also finally made its way into medicine as well? Today, we'll take a look at how researchers have come up with a way to use virtual reality to help patients overcome their phobias, and how that has significantly improved their quality of life. Don't believe it? Keep watching for more. First up, a new study shows that virtual reality can now be used to treat phobias. Yep, you heard that right, guys. People with the most common phobias now have a way to manage their symptoms of fear with the simple aid of virtual reality. But before we get on with the details of this study, let's go back to Psych 101 for a bit and clarify how science defines a phobia. So, a phobia is basically an intense fear of something that doesn't really pose any real danger to the person. For example, dogs, a fear of flying or heights, and needles. All that stuff, you know? And as per the National Institute of Mental Health, approximately 10% of people live with such fears and have uncontrollable panic when they're exposed to their triggers. So naturally, these individuals live a very cautious life, and besides behavioral therapy, not much can be done about these phobias, until of course, virtual reality came into the picture. Now, why do some people even have phobias? Like many diseases and disorders, phobias can be caused by different things. Childhood trauma is one of the most prominent causes, but genetics has also a way of influencing them. When you're a child, your brain is very impressionable, and so it has the ability to learn what it sees. And typically, if you see someone express their fear of spiders, you're more likely to mimic it, and over time, it can develop into a phobia without you realizing it. Similarly, if you have a traumatic experience as a child, let's say you were chased by a rabid dog or hurt by a wild cat, you're more likely to associate that animal with fear. And no matter how many times you come across tame versions of those animals, even cuter ones on IG, your brain will never allow you to rationalize that fear, and sometimes that can have horrible effects on your social life. But how exactly did VR help patients overcome their fears? Simple, they used an app called Overcome. Gotta love the wordplay. Confused? Don't worry, we're here to break it down for you. So you must know of self-help apps, right? Self-help apps aren't that uncommon these days. Apps like Calm, Lumosity, and AlloBud are all examples of how different algorithms use psychology to help people keep track of their habits and welfare. And so, inspired by this, what researchers did was that they used the principle of virtual reality, generated a simulated environment, then incorporated aspects of behavioral therapy, and finally ran trials to see how it affects a person's phobia. The app was developed by a New Zealand-based tech entrepreneur, Adam Hutchinson, who designed his app in such a way that it followed a therapeutic algorithm that not only included a self-guided therapy program, but also targeted people with anxiety and common phobias like heights, spiders, needles, flying, and dogs. And how useful was this app, you ask? Evidence-based medicine is like the Bible for doctors, right? If there is data supporting a treatment regimen, then of course, physicians trust it and thus prescribe it to their patients. This is why a randomized controlled trial was important to test the effectiveness of this application. From May 2021 to December 2021, a total of 129 people took part in a 6-week trial with a 12-week follow-up. These participants included people of all ages between 18 and 64, and all shared a common history of phobias like flying, heights, needles, spiders, or dogs. After the use of the app, it was found that most of these people showed a 75% decrease in their phobia symptoms after the 6-week treatment. Now, that's pretty cool, right? Keep watching to find out how. Some participants even felt comfortable enough to face their fears after this and felt a surge of confidence that had a positive impact on their daily life. So, how did an app achieve all these results? Well, the app relies on a key psychological treatment principle commonly known as exposure therapy, a form of cognitive behavioral therapy. What this does is that it introduces the stressor or the phobia of the person to them in short bursts. This means that for a very short time period, your brain is continuously exposed to the thing that makes you afraid, and it does that until you develop a tolerance to that phobia. Or simply put, if you're afraid of spiders, it shows you a picture of them until your brain is no longer bothered by them. And honestly, it's a pretty genius way to help with these phobias because it helps you Pavlov your brain into thinking that your fear is nothing serious, and so it helps you not to spiral into panic every time you come across something like that. And as Kelly Clarkson once said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So yeah, thanks for the app, Adam. Lastly, is virtual reality the way forward in medicine? AI has already helped shape medicine into a more refined division of science, and this new study of VR exposure therapy combined with cognitive behavioral therapy is just another affirmation that technology is here to make our lives better. Training programs centered around virtual reality have been under trial as therapeutic models for teenagers with autism spectrum disorder as a way to manage the symptoms of their anxiety and social phobias. And as this technology becomes more up to date, it opens numerous avenues for other groups of people that can benefit from these algorithms and simulations. Medical education too can become more diverse with anatomical simulation in labs, and thus will make the cadaver experience less traumatic for faint-hearted med students. And now, moving on to other news. First up, virtual reality exercise showed shows reduced stress levels. Now, we all know exercise is good for all health, right? Something about endorphins and a runner's high that makes you feel like running out of breath is actually doing you good. Well, it doesn't matter if you're in a fancy gym or just running a block around your neighborhood, because virtual reality has now made it possible for you to have an immersive exercise experience without lifting a finger. Yes, all you lazy bums, your prayers have been answered. Researchers from Tohoku University recently found out that individuals who sat down and had virtual avatars doing all the physical work showed decreased stress levels and less anxiety. This means no more sweating and stinking. Honestly, that's a pretty sweet deal to us. Next up, 3-year-old conjoined twins with fused brains separated by virtual reality. Conjoined twins are an extremely rare genetic phenomenon that happens once in every 100,000 births. Typically, fetuses are fused at either the hip or the spine, or even at their heads, and they continue to grow like that until they reach full term. Thankfully, there are surgeons equipped to handle the separation of such cases, but because the network of veins, nerves, and arteries is so intricate in these twins that any small error can be fatal to their lives. But virtual reality has now made it possible for surgeons to practice the entire length of these operations so that there is no room for mistakes on D-Day. Using VR projections and headsets, Dr. Gilani, a UK-based pediatrician, and Dr. Gabriel Mufaraj, head of pediatric surgery at Instituto Estadual do Cerebro Paulo Niemeyer, were able to perform a mock version of the same surgical procedure despite being 6,000 miles away, which helped them separate the 3-year-old craniopagus twins successfully. The only hiccup in between was some scar tissue from previous separation attempts, but nothing that our experts couldn't handle. It's times like these when technology outshines as a blessing, and we hope it remains that way in the future too. And lastly, virtual reality takes hospice patients on tour to the other side of the world. Life in hospice can get pretty lonely. To think you once lived a life full of love and laughter that is now reduced to pills in orange bottles and scheduled stale meals is a rather sad thought. But thanks to virtual reality, there is some light to this darkness. At St. Giles Hospice, residents were given VR headsets that allowed them to escape the mundane reality of their day-to-day life, experience tours around different cities, and observe wildlife. The residents appreciated the gesture, and the families became emotional, saying they hadn't seen their loved ones look so animated and alive in years. There was a calmness to those people after they took off their headsets, and it proved that if used with good intentions, technology can give immersive experiences to people who need it the most. And that's a wrap for today's video. What do you think about the use of virtual reality in medicine? Do you think we can trust AI with treatment and diagnoses, or should we leave that to humans? Let us know in the comments down below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more awesome content like this. Until next time, see you in the next one.